This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
And today I'm going to count down our top 5 DC comic issues of 2019. And with me is DC Comics expert and Star Wars aficionado, Dylan from The Real Comic Book Gamer. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. Ready to talk some DC Comics?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to go first for the comic issues. So these are the comic... I'm on the wrong list. These are the comic issues that actually didn't make the list. I got Batman TMNT 3 number 3, Batman and the Outsiders number 1, The Last God number 1, The Batman Who Laughs number 1, and Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Deaths of Superman. All great comic books, but didn't quite make my top 5. You ready to hear my number 5?
I'm ready.
All right, my number 5 is Detective Comics 1008 from Peter J. Tomasi and Doug Mahnke. I absolutely love one-shots when they're done well, and this is the perfect Batman one-shot. Batman at a carnival where Joker's holding everyone hostage, and they're all having to play his games while Batman is sitting there going with him, trying to figure out where Joker's holding like his detonator and stuff like this. Such a fun comic book.
That's actually my number 5 as well. So we have the same number 5. Okay. So no need to go into any details, but it's so great, and everything Doug Mahnke does with it, how creepily he draws Joker, and I love that it's basically just for Joker, it's just a date with Batman is essentially what it is. He gets to go on a car throughout an entire carnival with Batman through the Tunnel of Love and everything, while Batman's just trying to figure it out. And then that moment where he tries to give Joker tries to give that kid a cookie, and Batman just takes it and crushes it. Yes. So good, I love it.
Yeah, so much good stuff there. And you're right, when he does like the close-up of Joker's face, he's so grotesque and
he's terrifying.
It's just disgusting. But yeah, Doug Mahnke, how does this dude not get like a prime series? Like Detective Comics is a big deal, but he's not even the number one guy on there. He just kind of comes and goes, doesn't he?
Yeah, him and I think Brad Walker and one other guy. Yeah, he's not like the primary guy. He'll be on for like 2 issues and then they'll go to someone else. But yeah, he's made, I'd say, the most progress I've seen of any artist in like the past decade or so. Because like mid to late 2000s, some of his art was pretty rough. And then he just he tapped into something, and now he's amazing. One of my favorite artists.
Yeah, so if you have not read Detective Comics 1008 and you want just a great one-shot Batman story, it gets no better than that, especially in 2019.
Yeah.
All right, so we also had that as your number 5. My number 4 is Batman Last Night on Earth number 1 from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. This is, in my opinion, probably the best comic that's been released through DC Black Label, just as far as writing and art quality. I do think Batman Damn had better art, but the writing wasn't as good. This is just such a really weird take on Batman. It's essentially Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's last hurrah with the character, and he wakes up and he's like in an insane asylum, and he's being treated by his rogues gallery, and his doctor is Joker, and you don't know what's going on. And Scott Snyder does a real number on you as a reader. You're like, I think Batman's really insane.
Yeah, he does a great job, especially with that beginning to where you see like the child that's been propped up and just dead in the alley, and then he goes and confronts Joe Chill about it, and then it just jumps to Batman being in an asylum and that emotional moment with poor Alfred. Man, I felt for Alfred in that book like so bad, so much more than when Tom King killed him. Like that moment there where he's just like, I wanted to see my boy again. He just wanted to make sure that, because every other Bruce that had come through that like clone thing had just gone off and been Batman, and he wanted to save this one and make this one just a normal guy, but he couldn't do it because it's in Bruce's nature to be Batman. And I love that.
Yeah, and there's so many weird things in this book, but my favorite probably is when you realize that the Green Lanterns came to Earth and with Mogo, they fight it out and they lost, and all the rings fell to Earth, and they're like controlling like these zombies, and they're being drugged around by their ring constructs.
Yeah, the giant like babies and stuff, because they're being controlled, but they're too weak-willed, so they're being controlled by the rings. I thought that was a really cool like addition, and it is very much in line with like how not metal the series, but just like in the term metal, like Greg Capullo and Snyder have been with their stuff. Like you look at Wonder Woman, she's got like a mohawk that leads into a ponytail, like the the
just
book
like
itself,
disfigured.
yeah, and then you see a lot of other character designs that are like that as well, to where it's just like so metal,
Hmm.
and it fits it really well.
Yeah, I love that comic book. So what's your number 4?
My number 4 is DCeased number 5. I can't really say why because I don't want to spoil it, because something huge happens and it's the second to last issue of the series. So something huge happens. It's one of the most like emotional moments I'll say in a comic book of this year, and it's really good. It's hard because I can't describe it without spoiling it, but it's great. The art itself is okay throughout the entire DCeased series, to where the art's not too great, but the writing's really good. And it just has a really emotional moment. And it was one of my favorite Superman issues as well. Superman has a lot to do in this issue, and it's handled really well.
So interesting enough, I did not read DCeased because I started on the first issue and I didn't like the art. And I don't really like Tom Taylor. Even though everyone said it was good, I was like, they're all wrong. But I'm planning on reading it before Unkillables come out, because DCeased was such a huge hit, and people always rave about how good it is. So it's on my to-do list, but I got to talk about the covers. The horror movie covers, like the homages that they do, were the coolest covers all year, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were awesome. Those covers they did with like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that, just classic horror movies, look so dope. I got a couple of them. They look amazing.
Yeah, there's so many bad covers nowadays, but I love those horror homages that they did on DCeased.
Yeah. And I'm not a big fan of Tom Taylor either, but he surprised me with this book.
Yeah, I'm going to read it. I'm going to be ready for Unkillables. I know it's one of the big DC comics coming out in 2020, and I got to be ready.
And then watch Unkillables just suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope not. All right, so my number 3 book, and this might upset you, like you might think it should be higher, is Doomsday Clock number 10 from Geoff Johns and Gary Frank. Doomsday Clock is an amazing series, but 10 is the one that really, I think, is the issue that stands above the rest by far. It's where basically Geoff Johns solidifies that Superman is the center of the multiverse. Everything that in the DC multiverse spawns from the arrival of Superman. No matter when he arrives, that's when the multiverse starts. And I thought it was severely impactful and just expertly done by Geoff Johns, with wonderful work by Gary Frank.
Yeah, it's a great issue. It's so good, and you might see it higher on my list. But yeah, it is. I would say that is definitely the best issue of the series. How it ended with number 12 was amazing as well. But 10 was just like, it got you so ready for that ending, and it definitely just made you want the next issue even more. Like everything kind of ramped up with this series, and 10 was really the pinnacle of it, where it peaked, and it's just so good. And everyone, if you have not read Doomsday Clock, it's finally over. You can finally collect all the issues and read it, and it's definitely worth your time. And it's probably cheaper to get all the issues as well than if you would go and get the whatever collection they're going to do, because
the hard copy, hardback.
Who knows how expensive that's going to be.
But I do believe Doomsday Clock is going to read phenomenally as a trade.
Me too. I'm excited to go back and read all 12 issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy that the delays and everything ended up taking like over 2 years to finally release. And just such a lost opportunity. But, Doomsday Clock 10 just stands above the rest as one of the real classics that DC actually put out this year. And it's just so sad that they're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah, it's still like the series itself, you can still read and enjoy for like the masterpiece that it is. But it's just its effect on the overall universe is nullified because we've gone so far away from Geoff Johns' original plan with Rebirth that it doesn't matter as much anymore. But you can still read the series and enjoy it. You just got to know that it kind of begins and ends. There's no like, so after this, the universe is going to be affected. Stuff's going to connect. When you see like Nightwing in the book, just know that he's not going to be in the rest of the DC universe and things like that. So that's sad, but the book is still well worth it. Even if the continuity of it with other books doesn't line up too well, it's still well worth your time to read the book. It's an amazing story.
Mm-hmm. All right. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is The Batman Who Laughs number 2. So The Batman Who Laughs, I enjoyed the series overall, but I thought issue 2 was where it peaked. and I mean like peaked hard, because it's so good. So the Batman Who Laughs is causing all kinds of problems for Batman. He's doing his thing. He's trying to poison Gotham, and this was, I believe, the issue where he learned that he's trying to poison Gotham through an initiative called Last Laugh, which was initially something to help the people of Gotham. Like if Gotham's water supply got poisoned, they could like go to this other reserve that was fresh and clean water, and the Batman Who Laughs is trying to poison that reserve, so that way, okay, everyone in Gotham is screwed. And in this, he goes to Wayne Tower. The Batman Who Laughs goes and breaks in there, and him and Batman have an awesome fight. The art is amazing by Jock, and Batman gets so emotional during this fight, he even shouts during it that he's going to kill the Batman Who Laughs. And Batman Who Laughs has a great response. He's like, what? Because I'm you from another universe, it doesn't count? The killing rule doesn't count? He's like, that's not how it works. And he also gets just his ass kicked. Like, Batman gets destroyed in this. It's getting the upper hand on the Batman Who Laughs, but the Batman Who Laughs had the Grim Knight on like a skyscraper across the way, just shoot him down. Grim Knight's basically Punisher mixed with Batman, and so he's badass. But the series itself is like just so, well, I mean, the issue itself is so epic and just amazing. The other issues aren't as good as this one, but this one is just definitely worth a read.
Yeah, the Batman Who Laughs isn't my favorite character. People know that he's not. You know, I think that Metal was kind of the beginning of the end for DC Rebirth, but man, you are right about Scott Snyder and Jock on the Batman Who Laughs. That series is so much fun, and it's just crazy. When the Grim Knight shows up, you're like, who's, you know, he's got all these guns, like looks like the Grim Knight Cable or something, right?
Yeah,
the biggest guns you've ever seen.
Yeah, he comes and just starts shooting everyone. And a big part of the series is that the Batman Who Laughs, in order to get like this dark energy or whatever he needs, he takes Bruce Wayne's from other universes and just kills them. So he'll like teleport into them and drop them off skyscrapers and stuff, and he starts hunting them down. It's a pretty good series. And 2 was the one that made me add it to my poll, because prior to that I was like, I picked up issue 1 because he had extras at my shop, and same with issue 2. And then once I read issue 2, it was like, okay, adding it to my poll, I gotta check out the rest. 2 was so good.
And of course, it ended up leading into the Year of the Villain and eventually the next Crisis book. So Batman Who Laughs is actually a really important series if you're a DC fan and you want to follow continuity moving forward. Yeah,
and it's probably the best thing you can check out involving the Batman Who Laughs is that miniseries.
All right, so we're into the top 2 territory. This is a no-brainer for me. My number 2, Hawkman number 12 by Robert Venditti. It's the final issue that Brian Hitch illustrated. It's the culmination of Robert Venditti's reimagining of the history and the significance of the character of Hawkman. It's amazing. You know, there's a big battle. I believe it's over London, where he's taken out the army that he used to control, where he was the general of the Deathbringer army in a previous life. And it's just the culmination of a wonderful story. And Robert Venditti is my favorite writer for a reason, and that comic is awesome.
I just got the first volume of Hawkman, and I've loved it. It got a very much an Indiana Jones feel, at least the first volume does, and I really like it. So I can't speak to the 12th issue, but I can say that Venditti is very solid, and I've enjoyed what I've read of his Hawkman.
Oh yeah, so the first volume is where he kind of reimagines his history and everything, and kind of puts him on this collision course that all culminates in issue 12. And you're going to be very happy when you get that second volume. When you get to the end, you're like, oh, that's the way this should have ended. It's just the perfect ending for Carter Hall and all the really great world building. And Venditti added so much to the character by just rethinking about how he could structure everything to work together. You know, because he has a convoluted history. You have a character that wakes up, in different eras, and he essentially reincarnates. And you're gonna love it, brother.
All right, I'm excited. And yeah, poor Hawkman occasionally will get shafted all because of the Justice League cartoon with Hawkgirl, to where he kind of didn't get the limelight for a while. So I'm happy now that he's getting this series and he's getting to people are really enjoying his character. Because before this, the only Hawkman I read was Jeff Johns' run. I read a little bit of that.
Also very good.
I remember when Green Arrow and him hated each other, and I loved that relationship. Like, they despised each other, and I love seeing that, because a lot of times a lot of heroes are buddy-buddy. So to see like heroes that have to work together to just hate each other was nice. I like seeing that.
Yeah, That was excellent. All right, so what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Justice League number 25. So this was during the Sixth Dimension arc, and it's written by Scott Snyder, and the art is done by George Jimenez, who is just a killer when it comes to art. He's so good. This was also the first arc he helped write with Scott Snyder. Prior to this, he's just the artist, but with this, he actually got a writing credit and helped write the plot. And it's a great story to where there's like Mr. Mxyzptlk comes in and he tries to convince the Justice League to go to the Sixth Dimension because reasons. And so Superman goes ahead of everyone else first. He's like, only Superman will be able to go first. So Superman goes in, and then a future Superman comes back, and he's like, hey guys, everything's great in here. Come on. And he like looks all different. He's got white hair, a white suit. I come in there and they're like, oh, wow, this is a cool future. And they're like, we'll tell you how we beat Lex and like the Batman Who Laughs and all that stuff. And so they start talking to their future Justice League counterparts and everything. But then it turns out that's not future Superman. That's the World Forger pretending to be him. And Superman is isolated on this planet that has no sun, and he's just stuck there and he can't get out. He tries to fly out of the planet. He can't. So he's been stuck there and on this journey for a while until issue 25, when he's finally able to get out of there and launch out. And he comes with like so much power. There's this great page to where it's Superman, his son John Kent, and then his father Jonathan Kent, to where he's just showing basically that they're with him in terms of like how he was able to get out of there through his mentality, was thinking about his son and his father. They inspired him to be able to get out of there. And it's just this great page that George Jimenez did, to where he goes and then he punches the World Forger so hard he causes this giant crater on this planet in the Sixth Dimension. And it was just an amazing moment. And the issue itself was fantastic. And the Sixth Dimension storyline was the best of Justice League. And that issue was just so great, especially during that time. There's so much despair as a Superman fan because there's no escape from Venditti. But this storyline kind of gave a bit of an escape, and it's well worth a read.
Now that we know Scott Snyder is re-upped on with DC Comics, he's done with Batman. My hope is once that this event is over and 5G is over, that Scott Snyder is the next writer for Superman.
I'm excited to see what he did. I was disappointed with Superman Unchained when he was on there during the New 52, but that could be chalked up to it being the New 52, because that series wasn't bad. It was just very mediocre. I did like his Lex in that, though, which is funny because I don't like his Lex now. But hopefully he could do a good Superman, because he did a great job with that in the Sixth Dimension. But also Superman is George Jimenez's favorite character, so that could have had something to do with how well he was handling that storyline. But yeah, I'd be excited to give Snyder a crack at Superman.
Absolutely. All right, it's time for my number 1. I can't believe this isn't on your list. I was like, we're gonna have the same number 1 comic. My number 1 DC comic issue of 2019, Man and Superman by Marv Wolfman and Claudio Castellini. It was originally it was supposed to be in Superman Confidential, but they never published it. They published it as a 100-page giant this year. Without a doubt, my favorite DC comic. It just has this beautiful origin for Clark in Metropolis, trying to get his job, and he's away from home for the first time, and he's failing, but he doesn't want to tell his parents, who can't relate to that kind of thing. And just a beautiful imagining of Clark Kent's like first year in Metropolis.
So I actually did have that as my number 1, but then I changed it because I was like, is this cheating since it's multiple issues in one? It's a 100-page giant one shot. So I took it off because I thought it would be cheating for the number 1 issue, because that was my favorite issue that I read of the year, but it's technically like 4 issues in one. I just got so I got the original 100-page giant when it came out, and I just got the hardcover that just got released with it. It's really good. There's a lot of bonus content in there of Marv Wolfman and the artist talking about like what they went through there. And there's a really cool part where Peter J. Tomasi was actually Wolfman's editor on this book when he was working on it. And he's talking about how, I think it was with issue 1, he's like, Tomasi came to me. He's like, I really love it, but the ending doesn't add up with the rest of the book at all. He's like, just find a different ending. He's like, that's how Tomasi was as an editor. He wouldn't tell me exactly what to do. He would just say, this is good, this doesn't fit, fix it. And he loved Tomasi as an editor, and that's how he changed it. And he's like, he was right. And just like the bonus content in that book was worth it. And yeah, the book was so nice I had to buy it twice. So that kind of shows why it would be.
Technically, it's called Man and Superman number 1.
Yeah.
I would have included Uncanny X-Men or X-Men giant size X-Men number 1, when that book came out. So it's a comic book, right?
Yeah, true.
All right, well, at least we don't have the exact same comic for number one, but I do believe your number one comic might have been on my list as well.
Yep, Doomsday Clock number 10. It was the peak of the series. It was of a great series. I can't really say much more than you already did. What it did with the metaverse, the A and B plot with Carver Coleman was done really well. The art by Gary Frank is always stunning, and it's Geoff Johns at his best, and it really lets you know what the series was all about. And man, if I wanted variety on my list. That's why I didn't do like multiple issues of a series. Otherwise, Doomsday Clock number 12 would be on here as well, because Doomsday Clock number 12 was fantastic. But yeah, 10 was the peak, and it was just handled so well and really showed you where this series was going and what it was all about.
And that's the one that also has when you start realizing what Ozymandias' plan is. And is that the one where Saturn Girl is kind of...
She gets captured, or
yeah, she's in prison talking to him, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's a lot of good stuff in that one. It's just when you think about all the stuff that what Geoff Johns was putting in place as far as like the future of DC Comics, and just to see it all wasted. Like I said earlier, it's such a disappointment. That is the pinnacle of DC Comics, or is Doomsday Clock, and it's such a great issue, and it. Because it feels like the Flash or Wally West probably originally had something more to do in this comic book. Did you always think that too? Because it seemed like he was really important at the very beginning of Rebirth.
So I think two people had more things to do with it. Wally West, yes, agreed, because he did have more with it, and then Heroes in Crisis did away with him. And then also Mr. Oz, Jor-El, I think he had more to do with it, because at the end of the Oz Effect, he gets... So Manhattan was the one that took him from Krypton's explosion and brought him back to our planet to basically test Superman. And then at the end of the series, he gets clear-headed again because of Superman, and then he gets taken away by Dr. Manhattan. I think Jurgens or Johns had something more they wanted to do with him, but then Bendis ruined it by bringing Jor-El back in his series, and he didn't explain at all how Jor-El got back. Like, how did he escape Dr. Manhattan? We have no clue or what happened. And then he puts him back to Krypton, like through a time machine, to where he dies on Krypton again. So he just completely wasted Jor-El, but I really feel like they had something they were going to do with Jor-El that was big. I don't know necessarily it was Doomsday Clock, but something. He was a big part of Rebirth. Mr. Oz, like, no one knew who he was when he showed up in Rebirth. So yeah, I agree. I think Jor-El and Wally West had big parts to play in Rebirth that were ruined by King and Bendis.
Yeah, because I just read the first volume of Titans, and at the very end, they're like,
It's so
what
good.
happened? And he's like, I just have one word in my head. It's Manhattan. And,
Yeah,
like they're dropping all these hints that this guy, Manhattan's going around and ruining lives, and the Flash, can get to it, because he's got the Speed Force and stuff like that. But
that part in Titans Volume 1 where he goes across the country in like a quarter of a second, he's like, I'm gonna have to go faster than I've ever gone. Oh, I love that part. It's so good.
Yeah. But yeah, Doomsday Clock, such a great comic, and I think that does our list for today. Thank you so much for joining me, Dylan. You're going to talk about some DC Comics top 5 series of the year, right?
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, let's do that tomorrow.
Sounds good.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.